Stocks trade ranged amid the few global cues, and though rising COVID cases in China are a bother for the markets, realty, auto and industrial see green, while IT and FMCG flash red and mid-caps outperformed today.
Axis Bank tells investors its digital platform is boosting growth powered by online partnerships even as credit quality improves. Analysts give a big thumbs up to the stock.
Punjab National Bank gains on receiving a nod to divest its over 15% stake in UTI AMC, while the valuation of Ashok Hotel at rupees 7,400 crore boosts the Indian parent Indian Tourism Development Corporation.
The High-Level Committee on Private Equity and Venture Investments is looking to make rules friendlier to draw more investments. Panel Chief M. Damodaran tells CNBC-TV18 the panel expects to complete its report by the 9th of December.
Hello and welcome. You're watching Business Lunch. I'm Nisha Podar, and with me, as always, is my co-anchor Pavitra Parekh. So, Pavitra, markets really have seen a little bit of volatility today. Right now, trying to recover from the low point of the trade. And remember, it's after 18,500 level above opening for the trading session. At the moment, Nifty 50 is at a kissing distance to that 18,500 level, but definitely flattish in trade and trying for a recovery. Let's take a look at the other indices as well. And Sensex is flat on the red and only 5-6 points down in trade at the moment. Bank Nifty is underperforming the key indices by a slight margin, comfortably in the red at the moment with over 60 points loss. And when we talk about mid-caps, that is showing a huge amount of outperformance to the key indices. So the broader market is really participating with gusto because it's 1% up almost in trade. And that's also giving a sense of the overall market breadth, and that is in favor of the advances quite comfortably. On my screens, Coal India, HDFC Life and Big Boy Reliance Industries are some of the top gainers from Nifty 50. Pavitra.
Nisha, like you mentioned, we finally gone up. We've seen that rise to that all-time high kind of level, but it's been such a slow and, painful move to that level that it almost doesn't feel like we are at all-time high.
But it was a record-smashing day yesterday.
Yeah, but that's
and
exactly
after that, the market needs a little bit of
that's today. But what we've been talking about is that even though it was a record-smashing day with so many stocks at 52-week lows, it hardly feels like that. Anyway, what's been doing really well is the PSU bank space. Today, that index has seen quite a slip from the highs. It is still in the green, but it has seen quite a slip. And a few of those stocks are still holding up well. So some of the banking names will come up for you. The smaller ones I'm talking about, the likes of UCO, PNB, all holding up with good gains. You have some of the real estate stocks which are doing well today, so keep those on your radar. On the downside, it is a lot of the consumption names, so those ones will also be up for you. Some of the new age companies doing well today. Don't lose sight of the fact, of course, this is after a heavy beating that they have been, doing well. This is Nykaa because they do have their Pink Friday sale which is on, and it looks like it's been quite good for day one. Today, the stock is up on account of that. But that's what's going on with the market. We're going to come back to that in just a bit. But first up, let's kickstart things by focusing on the global setup. China reports record COVID cases for the second consecutive day at over 32,000. This is the second highest number of daily cases that we've seen since the start of the pandemic. Despite the zero COVID policy, we are seeing that cases are still on a rise. So cities across the country have imposed new measures now in order to try and control the outbreak. CNBC's Sam Vadas is here with more.
Well, I think it's hard to imagine any sort of realistic view that we could have assumed that we were going to see a huge shift in zero COVID because, of course, we do know that the Chinese political system, the leadership has poured a lot of political capital very much into this strategy. But what we're seeing now is it being very complicated and clearly very difficult to actually stick to some of their announcements that they would be reducing reducing and relaxing some of these COVID curbs, and that is also dashing hopes of a speedy reopening. When we talk about this zero COVID strategy, what the Chinese government sort of mean by this is they have this dynamic clearance policy, and what that is basically removing these positive cases from the transmission chain, but that hasn't really been working in their favor too much, because despite the lockdowns, despite the restrictions, despite all the testing and the health codes, we are now hitting new records twice this week, again today, reaching nearly 33,000 new infections this morning. And so what we've seen as a result of that is more restrictions, more of these localized lockdowns. They're not these sort of blanket lockdowns that we have seen over the last 3 years, but certainly more testing. And this is going all the way from Harbin to Hainan to Sichuan to Shanghai. So we are seeing this very much widespread. And I'll give you an example of the complicated nature of what's happening here. There is an area called Shijiazhuang, which is just to the west of Beijing. And a couple of weeks ago, a lot of people were talking about this area because they'd actually dropped all their COVID curbs. Now they are reporting over 3,000 cases. And that just goes to show how quickly this virus is, of course, spreading over in China.
Welcome back. You're still tuned into Business Lunch on CNBC-TV18, and sources are telling us now that the Kirit Parikh panel, which is reviewing the gas pricing mechanism, is likely to submit its report to the government by the end of this month. So Parikshit is here with some more details on this. Parikshit?
Well, yes, there was speculation that this report will come out this week, but we have got to know from highly placed sources that this exercise could take a few more days, and possibly by the end of November, this report will be submitted to the government. Again, there has been speculation that the panel is going to recommend a revised price for natural gas. That's unlikely to happen. Sources say a formula would be arrived at and it could be a differential formula for the consumers of piped natural gas and a different formula for the industry as well. So what we've got to know from our sources that they will try and balance the needs of the industry with that of the consumers. There are certain social needs of consumers of the agriculture sector that the committee will have to address, and probably there could be a price formula to address that audience as well. So let's wait and see what happens. But in all likelihood, this report will be submitted to the government by the end of this month.
All right. Looking forward to that report by end of this month. Thanks, Parikshit Luthra, for getting us all those important details. Now getting you some interesting updates coming in for the auto enthusiasts who are our viewers. Well, Toyota Innova has unveiled their much-awaited SUV and the High Cross, which is a subunit of their Innova range. The vehicle comes in 2 petrol and 3 hybrid electric variants, and also comparing the model to the Innova Krista. The High Cross has a longer wheel base and a larger front bumper and also tires, and the vehicle's hybrid engine also allows it to sprint from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in under 10 seconds, while the prices for the models are to be revealed, and the booking for the SUV begins today and sales will start in January next year. So waiting for January next year for unveiling this piece.
All right, exciting visuals coming out of that launch event. In fact, my colleague Parikshit, who was at the event, also spoke with Vikram Kirloskar, who's vice chairman at Toyota Kirloskar, on the launch. Listen in.
We started with the Qualis, and we set some level of expectations on reliability and quality. We had the first Innova, we had the Krista, and this thing is, I think, something which will exceed whatever people imagined with the Innova Krista. It's a fantastic car. I've driven it on the test track several times. The ride, the space, the elegance of the car, the power, the feel, it's really great. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps ahead. It's super.
Give us a sense of the major upgrades that this product gets over the current Krista.
Well, the main thing is it's a hybrid. It's a 5th generation hybrid. That's the latest that Toyota has. And I think you're going to see spectacular performance in terms of fuel efficiency, emissions and safety compared to anything else that we have.
Okay. Now,
and I'm sure, the best thing about the Innova, which customers tell me, is that when they sell it, they get a phenomenal price for it. You hardly find a used Innova in a market because of the reliability and quality. And I think we worked even harder on this car, on quality, reliability. We want to make it a really top-class car which customers will love.
Okay. Now, this car is packed with ADAS features as well. This comes at a time when we're looking at a global shortage of semiconductors, high input costs, commodity costs. All this is putting pressure on margins and the pricing of the vehicle as well. How difficult has it been to keep the pricing competitive?
See, we have to work and try to improve our competitiveness all the time. And we are continuously doing that, whether it is efficiency in the factory, design efficiency, and we have tried our very best on all this. As you mentioned, supply chains are going to be the most critical thing for the auto industry in the next 12 months. They have been quite tough in the last 12 months. I hope they settle down in the next 12 months. Chips is a problem. Not only chips, it's logistics cost. Container prices in the last 24 months over COVID have gone up, some cases 3 times, 5 times, 10 times. And logistics is something which bothers me even more than the price of interest rates or anything else or other costs. But logistics is expensive. And chip supply, electronic supply is going to be very, very critical. You see still sometimes closures in China. Every time something like that happens, we try to buy as much local as possible, but still China produces a lot of critical, very tiny components which you don't know are in somewhere. And every time they say 30,000 COVID cases and we're shutting down City A, we all get what's going to happen 3 weeks from now.
Right. Now, that's an important point because China is seeing record high COVID cases since the start of the pandemic. The surge is happening again. Is this likely to impact your supply chain from China?
Well,
are you seeing risks there?
I think it's a risk for everyone around the world. It's not only on cars. I think it's a risk on whether it's telephones, it's a risk on televisions, it's a risk on everything.
All right, China risk on top of everybody's mind here in India, in corporate circles as well. Moving on then, CNBC-TV18 is all set to lead, change and charge with a one-of-a-kind mega initiative, Future Female Forward. Now, the Women's Collective presented by HSBC. Before the official launch, we were joined by some young future leaders who shared their vision with our managing editor, Shireen Bhan. Now, their dreams and superpowers transcend age boundaries. From loving the Hulk to really saving the planet to wanting the stock markets to really open late so that their father can drop them to the school bus. Now, this heartwarming conversation is a must-watch. Take a look.
Today we have a great lineup of very influential voices. These are people who are going to shape the world. They are going to change our tomorrow. These are leaders, ladies and gentlemen. And it is now time for us to introduce you to these very powerful, influential leaders. The CEO of this panel. Madam, can I have you introduce yourself, please?
My name is Nandita Nair. I studied the Bombay International School in 7th grade. I enjoyed the arts, all of the sciences and math.
And if there's one thing that you would like to do as the current CEO of this panel to change the world, to shape the world, what would that be?
I'd like people to understand the consequences of their actions and take responsibility for them. The people blame other people, but we are the people. So we're blaming ourselves and then telling ourselves that we are not to blame.
So the one change that you would like to drive?
That I would like to drive is if I was being big, I will say...
Oh, I'm not letting you. I'm so sorry. We will let you take a picture. Also, Kabir, in 30 seconds, we will let you take a picture.
I think a big change is the same as my wish, but yeah, a change I would make is, if I had a power to make that change, is to reduce the effect that carbon dioxide has on the atmosphere. And if it was a smaller change, like it couldn't have such drastic effect, the markets would open later. I want my dad to spend time with me, like a lot more.
Well, we'll try. I think it would be easier to actually do something about the carbon dioxide than make the markets change their timing. But thank you so much.
Welcome back. You're watching Business Lunch. A quick look at Nifty 50. It is as flat as it can be. But Bank Nifty has dropped further, lost some more ground and 0.3% down in trade. And mid-caps are also seeing some bit of profit booking, a shade of that. Keep an eye out on the markets. Let's take it to the skies then. Onto the aviation sector, and Tata Group and Singapore Airlines are in talks for the potential merger of their joint venture, Air Vistara with Air India. Now, if a merger is considered, it will bring 4 airline brands and operations: Air India, Vistara, Air India Express, and also Air Asia India under one Tata umbrella. CNBC-TV18's our colleague Madiha really tells us what the combined entity could really look like, and in terms of market share and other numbers. Madiha, what does this really mean for India's aviation landscape?
India's aviation space is currently dominated by budget airline Indigo. So what kind of competition are we talking about here? In terms of market share, Indigo will continue to be the dominant player, going by the current numbers. In October, the combined market share of 4 Tata-owned brands stood at nearly 26%. Indigo, meanwhile, enjoyed a 57.7% market share. So even together, the market share will be half of Indigo's. Let's look at the size of the fleet. Air India Express, Air Asia India and Vistara together have 200 aircraft. Indigo, meanwhile, has 245 aircraft in the air and is learned to have ordered 700 more, which should be delivered over the next few years. Now, Air India has also been placing aircraft orders, but even if these are inducted, the combined fleet size will remain smaller. Indigo has also been carrying more passengers on its aircraft. From January to September this year, Air India Express, Air Asia India and Vistara together carried 3.4 crore passengers, while Indigo carried 5.3 crore passengers. That's a difference of nearly 2 crores. Let's move to domestic passenger load factor. This metric tells us how much of an airline's passenger carrying capacity is being utilized. Indigo has a PLF of 82.1% individually. Air India, Air Asia India and Vistara enjoy a higher PLF than Indigo, which averages out to 84.1%. Lastly, I checked the on-time performance of these airlines in the domestic market. On this parameter, Tata Group's airlines have taken the top 3 spots. This is also the first time Air India has topped the on-time performance ranking in many years with an OTP of 90.8%. Indigo has slipped to number 4 with 87.5%, behind Vistara and Air Asia India's 89.1%. Experts tell me that given how close the operational parameters could be, Indigo will definitely be in for some stiff competition from synergies a combination of the 4 Tata brands could generate. And air passengers are definitely in for some interesting times.
Thanks a lot for getting us all of those details. But with that, we're going to wind down on this edition of Business Lunch. The market is trading in a very narrow band, but you guys stay tuned. Mid-Cap Radar is up next.